Welcome to Caverna Draconis. I'm Alex the curator, and this time I'll take you to the Lingo Cave. For now, let's have a look at its translation antechamber. Oh, there is still that old translation machine, that old LIGO machine. Language in, garbage out. Yes. Well, as I was brought up in a multilingual situation, code switching, quasi or pseudo translations, and of course creating an ever-increasing linguistic mess just for the fun of it. It never failed to provide hours of entertainment. Even now, although I'm supposed to have grown out of it, when having one of these dark moments, I resort to machine translation, preferably online. No, I'm not going to mention any websites. Well, lo and behold, the shadows are banished, the mind is cleared with a good laugh. Until next time. Extremely basic sentences would be translated into any other language by anyone with sufficient control over the languages involved. But could this be done by a program that would enable a machine to come up with a proper translation of these simple sentences? Or would it be just another GO? The first attempt to develop automatic machine translation began in the 1940s by using computers for human language processing. Quite obviously, this had something to do with World War II, when US scientists deciphered codic Japanese military communication without the assistance of computers, which required quite some skill in coping with complex language problems. From there came the idea of using deciphering techniques to translate from one language into another, which in turn gave rise to the field of computational linguistics. When looking at a text written in source language X, it is assumed that it is actually written in target language Y. But it is coded in some strange symbols, which now have to be decoded. And this is the beginning of a wonderful friendship between cyberneticists and computational linguists. The aim of automatic translation is to input a text in the source language and get out a decent grammatical passage of possibly equivalent meaning in the target language. Okay, let's call it output. In good old times, it was assumed that this could be achieved by entering a dictionary of a source language into the memory of a computer, and on the other side, a dictionary with the corresponding morphemes and vocabulary of a target language. The translation program then has to match the morphemes of the source and the target language. The outcome was more often than not a case of LIGO, language in, garbage out. Why was that? All this technology and still, why oh why? Translation is more than word-for-word replacements, that's why. There may be no equivalent in the target language. The order of words in a sentence may differ and have an impact on the meaning, especially if there is no flexion, and naturally, the field of idioms, metaphors, jargon, technical terms is too complex to be dealt with by mechanical word-for-word replacement without understanding the actual sense or meaning. This is where we, the human translators and interpreters, come to the rescue and deal with the situation. As personalities, we know the grammar of the language, draw on general knowledge of the subject matter at hand in contact with the world to arrive at the intended meaning. Machine translation is often impeded by lexical and syntactic ambiguities, structural disparities between the languages, morphological complexities, and other cross-linguistic differences. Nevertheless, it is often difficult to get adequate translations even when humans are doing the job of a basic level, sometimes with the good intention to assist travelers. One very fond memory comes up. I remember going with my father to a restaurant in Athens, and part of the waiter's job was to recite today's menu. For whatever reason, he decided to do so in German. When he arrived at the veg section, he stated, "Ich habe griechische Hörner." I have Greek horns. Oh, right. What are these? My father asked in Greek, and the waiter explained, thank goodness, in Greek. These are okra, bamias, also called ladyfingers or green horns. Apparently, he mistook the final N in green for the letter kappa, since in lowercase to Greek trained eyes they look quite similar. So, green became Greek. Amazing how a little letter can have such a significance. He then consulted a renowned bilingual dictionary English-German and came up with a grammatically correct translation of Greek horns, griechische Hörner. We shall not keep translating this literally to Greek or some other language spoken around the Mediterranean for that matter. One single word may have different connotations or may even denote various concepts. This might be quite a rewarding topic for a forthcoming vid. Another sweetie was that big chicken portion with puree, also known as mashed potatoes, being declared as utmost of chicken with smashed pot, whatever this is. My cousin loves these Bulgarian spicy meatballs, especially when they are literally translated to nervous meatballs. In a Swiss nunnery hospital, the nuns harbor all diseases, which obviously banks on the ambiguity of to care for and to harbor, and categorical smudging between the unwell person and the illness as such, when translating from German to English. Oh, another German one comes to my mind, where missing English prepositions are starring by their absence. Since they do not always constitute a great difference in German. All the water has been passed by the manager. To pass or to pass on. Same difference in German, who cares? Though, I must admit, my absolute favorite, based on the grammar game, at least for the time being, is the declaration. The government bans the smoking of children. Well done, I wholeheartedly agree here. Just translate both sentences into any language and meditate on it. Sometimes it's just about finding the right words, so relax. But apparently this constitutes only a minor problem in automatic translation. Syntactic problems are much more complex. The greater recognition of the importance of syntax and the application of linguistic principles over the past decades have made it possible to use computers to translate simple text, although in a constrained context and between well-known languages. We all know and we all love these multilingual instruction booklets that come as a gimmick with our appliances, do we? Sometimes they really make sense, especially when we are advised how to fire up our new gas cooker. Sometimes they're just gibberish. Sometimes companies try to bypass all this by resorting to pure pictograms. More complex texts, if the translation is to be faithful, require our human intervention. On the other hand, the use of computers can improve our efficiency, but the day when we whip out a pocket translator, hold it near a native speaker, and receive an instant translation is yet to come, unless we got a translation fish like in Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. A specimen of the Babelfish, as part of the fictionality, is inserted into the traveler's inner ear, where it feeds on the native speaker's brainwaves and excretes simultaneously the perfectly adequate translation right into the traveler's system, so he would know instantaneously what is being communicated. Apparently, it would also work the other way around. Wonderful! Or maybe not so? No more fruitful misunderstandings? Well, I'll give you something to contemplate. Get a bilingual dictionary of some language you don't know. Translate the following sentences by looking up each single word. The children will eat the cake. The cake will be eaten by the children. Send your cousin a letter from your new home. Who is the person hugging that tree? After this, give a grammatically correct translation into the target language, asking preferably a native speaker for assistance. Finally, ask the person, I guess you should be great friends by now, so ask the person to translate the grammatically correct translation back into the source language, in this case English. The more languages, respectively native speaker, friends, the more expansion, the more fun. Enjoy! I hope you found this interesting. Please feel free to like, share and subscribe. Thanks for your time. I will see you soon at Caverna Draconis.